I'm a born farmer. I was born from a farming family. I was driving around the ute since I was a little kid, and it's all I've ever wanted to do. I would have to say that when I was crook and not travelling very well, I hated my farm. I felt that it was the farm that was causing me issues and perhaps I needed to get rid of my farm. I also knew that if I sold my farm, I'd be like a ship without an anchor, and I'd get lost in the world and probably may not have survived my mental illness. And when I finally got my help, I recognised that it was the farm that actually looked after me. I'm Chris Wilson. I'm a founding member of Riverina Bluebell. I live in an area called Wantabadgery, which is halfway between Wagga Wagga and Gundagai. It's an area that I really love. You know, I've been there for about 30 odd years now, predominantly prime lambs in our area, but we do also farm wheat, canola, barley, all the sort of usual crops. It's a great farming community. You know, I've got great neighbours and friends out there, and it's home. The concept for Riverina Bluebell came about in a bit of a convoluted way, but I'd recently experienced help for my mental health issues of depression. Was talking with one of my neighbours about that experience, and he felt that he wanted to do something about bringing our community together and having a focus on mental health issues, because this is back in the mid-2000s and a lot of communities were really under stress, and he was looking to get a committee of people together. So we initially had a small group of us, half a dozen or so. He made a few phone calls and got the group to turn up on the day. So it was just through local communication, word of mouth with ourselves that, you know, we started this small group. It wasn't a major call out or anything like that, just a handful of us that were concerned. We came up with the concept that we were going to provide inspiration and information for our community about mental health services, and we came up with the name of Riverina Bluebell because, number one, it suited our region, it expressed where we were from. Coincidentally, it had the name Blue in it, and Beyond Blue had done a lot of work in destigmatising mental health. So it actually gave people an idea initially of who we were, like that we were a mental health service that we were trying to create, and let them know that, you know, we were local and we were there for our community. We came up with the idea that we were going to do a pamphlet that we could mail out to our community members, and on that pamphlet was like a short inspirational message about, you know, people actually accessing help and having great success. There was also the local services that were available, and the idea around this is that it would be a conversation point that someone could take to a family member or a friend that they might be concerned about, and get them talking about mental health issues, show them that, look, people actually do have quite a bit of success here, and look, on the back, here's all the services that are available, so why don't we call someone now? Initially, when we started our little group, you know, naturally we had no funding, and we canvassed a lot of our local businesses. We hadn't had any runs on the board at that stage, so it was difficult to actually get money. There's a lot of pressure on businesses to support community events. So, and we were just another one approaching the same people who get approached all the time. And as luck would have it, the CWA had been given a large amount of grant money, and they're a tremendous community organisation right throughout the country. And they gave us $3,000, if I remember rightly, and that was enough money for us to get our initial printing done of our original idea of these A4 cards that went out to the community with our first, you know, Riverina Bluebell brand on it. That was our key success to getting started, for sure.
I'm Steve Matthews, Chairman of Riverina Bluebell, fourth generation farmer. Come from a little farming village called Lockhart, and like most small communities, it's not without its tragedies over the last 10 or so years. My journey started in the Millennium Drought in the early 2000s. Not only did I have a farm, I had a large transport company, 30 odd employees. Work dropped away, bad debts came in. I tried to work too hard and I had a breakdown. Pretty large one, resulted in 3 months in a psych ward. Misdiagnosed as having severe depression, where I actually have bipolar 2. Took 10 years to get that re-diagnosed, inappropriate medication and continued pressure resulted in me becoming suicidal, and the turnaround came after a very close brush with suicide, and I realised, frightened the shit out of myself actually, and come to my senses and realised I had to take control, and that's where I turned it around. And from there on, it's been a hard slog for the first couple of years, but built on the successes, got the re-diagnosis, and yeah, from there on, got my life back. But I felt the journey that I'd taken at that point, I had something to offer, and I was pointed in the direction of Riverina Bluebell because I wanted to put it out there and get people to relate to my circumstance and hopefully get help. If I do a talk, I do it warts and all, the whole episode. You know, I put 10 years into 20 minutes, and I leave nothing out. You have to be upfront, factual, and to the point, that you can't pretend that it's not there. It's the whole journey, the good and the bad, and the roller coaster that goes with it. Because if you don't put it out properly, people will say, yeah, that's half the story, or yeah, no, that's not me. But if you do the whole lot, people will say, yeah, that's me, and that's what makes the difference. Our group is held together by a passion for what we do. A lot of us have been personally affected. Directly, about a dozen people are involved with Riverina Bluebell. We've got a range of ages from 70s down to probably 40s. A few ex-farmers, a few current farmers, people that's in the service industry. Got a couple of professional people as well, accountants, and so we've got a pretty good mix and a lot of a good skill set mixed through the whole organisation. Bluebell's meetings are held monthly in an evening, because we find that most of our members can get there rather than interrupt their day. If something important comes up, we do an email meeting to resolve issues, but most stuff can be dealt with monthly. Usually takes about 2 to 3 hours when we've got a full agenda.
My name's Darren Sweeney. I'm part of Riverina Bluebell on the committee. My role in that is to help initiate events and activities that create awareness for mental health. I was invited by a friend who asked me to come and thought that my abilities might be able to assist Riverina Bluebell. She knew that I had my own struggles at times and had a fair understanding of mental health. Also being highly functional ADHD and very creative with advertising and marketing in my previous roles in business, I thought it was a good way to be able to donate my time and efforts and know that we could achieve something good. In the past, we've created a calendar which goes out every year. We've created some brand reminders that we give out to people and to farmers, you know, which were carpet snakes and stuff. It's just anything that can give people a reason just to have a stop and thought as they're walking out the door. Had educational talks, and we did it with COVID by webinar. We've started to look at our own back end with our website and to make that a lot more functional. We did a coaster campaign where we put out 100,000 coasters throughout the Riverina using the Australian Hotels Association and a QR code. Where we're at, we've got a bit of a brain tank going there at the moment. We're looking at doing something for education for first responders or people that are on the front line that deal in conversation with people. And so we might be looking at barbers, hairdressers, people that might absorb a lot of information from general people and how they can guide them the right way.
I'm Phil Moroney from Temora, New South Wales. I'm a mixed sheep and cropping farmer, also a sheep shearer, and play a bit of country music. I lost my dad when I was about 8 years old, which knocked me around a fair bit with grief. Struggled for a fair while after that. Also just become fairly withdrawn through my teens. Yeah, took flight in a lot of social situations and just was diagnosed with generalised anxiety and depression. It did lead to insomnia as I got a little bit older, just unhealthy levels of anxiety. I was then hospitalised, medicated, had to find some paths to get better. I just had to learn some strategies to overcome that sort of thing. The strategies that worked for me with anxiety mostly were just being aware of your five senses, some steady breathing exercises, slowing things down a bit, distraction, noticing nature and that sort of thing. So while I was hospitalised, I heard about Riverina Bluebell and contacted them after I was out of hospital. They then put me on to a counsellor that's on the road pretty much full time, helping people. From then, I then was able to sort of claw my way back to good mental health. I think Bluebell's special because they're just everyday people with lived and professional experience. They're a phone call away, and from the phone call they can put you in contact with services available in your area. They'll also check in on you to see how you're going if they're concerned about you. They'll also have events with guest speakers that share their own stories and have things coming up which you can get involved in and be part of.
Our little group, Riverina Bluebell, blossomed out of half a dozen people wanting to make a change and has become quite a successful entity. And I believe that anyone can do it. There is no shame in having a mental illness. It's just a bloody shame if you don't do something about it.
We're really lucky. We've got organisations like Riverina Bluebell, because without them, we would be really struggling, I reckon. Things are heading in a much better direction, yeah.
It's critical to be treated normally, because if you're treated differently, you feel isolated. Not to be treated special or anything like that. Just bring normality back into it. You won't upset anyone, you'll actually make it better. I think the short message is talk when you've got a problem and listen to someone else's problem. I don't think you can put it any simpler than that, because you save lives through communication.